Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Chris back with another video from the website. If you didn't see the article on the site, I have been doing a little bit of writing since the holidays have passed, and I hope you guys had a fantastic holiday season. This was in regard to basketball shoe companies, and I should jump up real quick, and that's going to be like 5 seconds and go grab some stuff just to grab it so I can make sure I show you what I'm talking about here. So give me 1 second. All right, so I'm doing this at the start, at the onset, so you can recognize that when I'm talking about something, I'm just not shooting off at the lip. In this post that you see to my side, why are companies choosing basketball when the segment is down and dominated by Nike? In this article, I actually discuss, probably for the first time, my shoe companies, Showshot and Arch. And you probably never heard of either one of them. And that's kind of my point. But Showshot was actually really successful, very successful. And Arch, even though I made this basketball shoe that you see right here, I never released this one, but I did release these running shoes and they sold well. And I'm going to put that data in here as well. And that's going to be in this discussion. And this is one of the casual shoes that I made for Arch. And I'm just sitting these shoes back here for the time being, because I thought it was important for me to begin that way and get into this discussion, because there are a lot of new sneaker companies. And with the access to Chinese manufacturing, Portuguese manufacturing, different manufacturers around the world, even in the US, you got a lot of new companies like KX Labs out in Los Angeles that can make knit shoes for you. With the ability for everybody to create sneakers, you have more sneaker companies than ever being launched. I just did a full breakdown of someone's brand, and I wrote it and I was like, I really hope they take this the right way, because it's going to sound negative. But that brand was J. Marie Sneakers. And I did a full breakdown and I sent that to them instead of writing a post about the company where I would have written all of this in a public space, and it probably would have hurt the person who owns the company, and that's not ever my intent. So this article that you see to the side, what I'm getting into is a discussion on all of these brands that are introducing sneakers. I'll never be the person to tell you not to make a shoe, but I will tell you why you shouldn't make a shoe. And that's two different things. Whether you think that is or not, it is. It's two different things. I'm not going to tell you not to make a shoe, because I have no right at all to tell you not to pursue a dream. We just had a conversation about dream chasing. But I will tell you why you shouldn't do so. Now, these brands that we're looking at to my side, I'm not saying they shouldn't have made shoes. I mean, you got Skechers in that group. If you see over here, Skechers is there. But the question becomes, what exactly are you targeting? And what are you attempting to accomplish in a very saturated market that's trending down? So here we go. On Running, Hoka, Newton Running, In Normal, Hilo Athletics, No Bull, Tracksmith are all brands that are gaining traction in a saturated marketplace. Now, that marketplace is fitness and running shoes. These brands look towards the general and accessible sports, training, running, fitness. They went there to capture market share, and they're doing incredible work. Those sports, training, running, fitness, there's no age cutoff or limitations on who can compete or participate. Now, of course, there's no age cutoff on basketball, but there's a certain point where you can't hoop the way you used to, and you all know that. But anyone, doesn't matter what age, anyone can lift weights or walk out of the house and jog. There isn't a special skill required to move slowly from couch to 5K. And this is why running and training brands have been able to quietly and slowly chip away at the mountain of Nike. Think about Brooks Running hitting $1 billion. Running and training were considered niche sports, small segment, not very big, niche sports. The footwear for those sports was also labeled as niche And I think that was done incorrectly if we really look back and think about it. It makes sense to think of jogging shoes as niche in the 70s and the 80s because brown shoes dominated. Remember Florsheim's? Stacey Adams. Sneakers at that time were generally used for the sport they were made for. The explosion of sneakers into casual wear happened initially, right, when Reebok moved women from jazzercise and aerobics to mall shopping, and they were walking around the malls and hanging out. That's kind of our first big shift into wearing sneakers outside of what they were used for. That moment kind of showed the potential of niche. And it also led to, if you remember correctly, Nike being close to going into bankruptcy. Reebok was killing Nike, and Adidas was killing Nike. Hip hop, Run DMC, Michael Jordan changed everything. It shifted kicks into popular culture. Now, of course, you had b-boy and breakdance and hip hop, like I said, back in the 70s, but not at the presence that it happened when Run DMC held up the Adidas and sang the song in Madison Square Garden. Things hadn't really taken off in that way. So you had this boom of sales from basketball, Michael Jordan. And this laid the foundation for the importance of basketball sneakers to the growth of sports brands. That led to it. Cross-training also led to it. Bo Knows, all of these different blacktop, Reebok, all of this stuff above the rim. This is kind of why the new entries into the basketball market are obsessed with basketball sneakers. And it seems that although the market for performance hoop shoes has become seasonal and sales have slowed considerably, you have more people attempting to make basketball shoes. I think new brands look at the rise of And1, or they witness Nike and Adidas pouring money into signature sneakers in the 2000s, and they see that as, an opportunity. They think about that meteoric rise of And1, but they don't think about the meteoric fall of And1. Now, I can't knock that because with Show Shot, that shoe that I just showed you back here, and it's hard to pick it up because this shoe was made in 2005, and it's super fragile, and if I touch the black, stuff starts coming off of it. But this shoe was made, I think I released it in 2006, 2007. Actually, 2007, 2008 was when I had my first All-American basketball cap. This shoe is based on an And1. As a matter of fact, I'll show you the bottom of the shoe. And that is an And1 outsole. All right. So I even looked at And1 as a model for releasing a basketball shoe. I did that. And it was successful. I can't even say that I did something bad there, but I didn't understand business at the time. I failed to understand licensing, and the brand was basically pulled away from me. The name was changed. It was sold for X amount of dollars. And I got nothing out of that because I had a license. Now, my small success in basketball shoes was because I had a great system. And now I'm really getting into the heart of what I'm talking about with the brands that you see over here to my side. Now, I discussed that previously in this article on Q4 Sports when Q4, what year was this? I think I wrote this 4 years ago. And they had Langston Galloway, they had Etuan Moore, Darren Collison. They had all of these NBA players, but sales were not robust for the company. And now you don't really see anything from Q4 Sports. And I'm not knocking them or bringing that up to shoot at them. I'm bringing it up because when I wrote this article, I was explaining how and why they should be crushing it. Because 4 years ago, this was pre-quarantine, they had an opportunity to do exactly what you see in this picture, which is not just team sales, but camps. And I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's keep going. When we look at these new brands, all right, you got Skechers, crossover culture. Brand Aces, Moolah Kicks, Q4, Ethics, and Hollow. All of those companies have thrown their hats in the basketball ring. Now, Skechers is not the same. When you see this little picture over here and you got Julius Randle and Terrence Mann, Skechers is not the same as the other companies that I just named. Not the same. Not the same. I have to keep repeating that. Skechers is different because they're $1 billion company taking a calculated risk rooted in the fact that they have stores around the globe, in particular in the Chinese market, where they are considered comparable to Nike in the international market. They have the ability to succeed because they aren't only selling in the US. As a matter of fact, I don't even think Skechers cares about the US and how they're going to tackle and move into basketball. And if you remember, Skechers already successfully hit a performance marketplace. They had performance running with the GoMab. The GoMab. And that running shoe was one of the best products on the market and it established the brand's ability, Skechers' ability to seriously take on performance footwear. Now, when we go back and we think about Show Shot, and I had showing you this shoe that you guys see in the picture that's over here to the side. When I launched Arch after Show Shot, it was 2009. And this was 2010. When I launched Arch as a footwear company, I partnered with 361. Yes, that 361 that just signed Nikola Jokic, the Joker, to a sneaker deal. And this was the shoe that we were going to make. And you see, it was incredible. 361 owned the rights to the design in China. And what I learned immediately is that if you don't have a person on the ground in China, any concept that you come up with, which we came up with this thing and they developed it and then I made it and I was going to bring it and release it here, anything you do can be done over there because the copyright laws are not the same. Now, I'm not making that a negative point. I'm just explaining. I was underfunded. Everything I did with Arch and with Show Shot, all of that stuff came out of my own pocket. It was one of the reasons it was extremely difficult to pull off. But with Show Shot, I had a great camp system in place and I had center court basketball. Now, when I launched Arch in 2009, 2010, I was moving away from basketball and I stopped operating that website. So I no longer could really get into basketball, and that's where I'm going with this. I didn't have time to cover sports anymore. And what I realized I wouldn't be able to do with this shoe, what I did with Show Shot. And I wouldn't be able to land the college teams, and I wouldn't be able to sell these 1,200 pair like I did with this shoe back here. Without those tools, I said to myself, and I knew I needed to transition into casual footwear, and then I chose performance running. So Arch, as a running shoe company, I'm going to put the basketball shoe down. That was just a sample. Arch, as a running shoe company, performed well. And I want to open this up because you can overlook some things, but I always tell you what I did, how I did it. And I would talk about this. This is 11 years ago this article was written. And I tell you that I had 120 pair of shoes, 11 pair given away in promotional deals, 7 pair were damaged, 102 pair total to sell, all shoes sold through Amazon.com, shoes sold 53 pair in this chart below, and it gives you the average price of it in the breakdown. Why is that important? Because a lot of the people who are entering this market have never sold shoes before. And it's extremely important if you're deciding to you're going to jump in this water. You're playing with something that's fire when you go into basketball. All right. So Arch was a good running shoe company. Now, I messed up some things. Ask me about that and I'll explain it, or I'll do a video, or maybe I'll do something live and we can all get on and talk about this stuff because it really is important to discuss. But at the same time that I was doing Arch, I launched an e-commerce business. Now I can show you the numbers on that e-commerce business. I should click over and show you the old stuff from years ago when I was on Amazon. And that was $1 million business. So this shoe at one point was outperforming the sale of New Balance and Puma in my store. That's not even an exaggeration. But I don't want this to get away from me. What I'm trying to establish is that in performance running, there's an opportunity. Why? Because running shoes break down every few months and people replace them every few months. There are tons of people getting into walking, running, training. You can do that. All of these brands entering basketball, they're going where I already was with basketball. Now, what I did was before the rise of social media, and it was even before the rise of operating an e-commerce platform, right? So I didn't have this big e-commerce that was making me a lot of money where I just couldn't focus well. I only had basketball when I was doing show shot, and it was incredible. And I did all of that stuff without a distribution deal or a fundraising round. And like I said, there was no social media in the early 2000s. It's not the way it is now. People do have a very good opportunity to do more than I did. And you have a ton of people throwing money around, giving people money, but they are giving people money almost on the idea of it being successful, not with evidence of true sales. And I think that's very dangerous. I think it's dangerous. And that venture capital has enabled the startups to take risk because they have so much cash to burn. And like I said, that's a dangerous aspect of the business. That's, in my opinion, it's a dangerous aspect. Now, in this discussion, I had a founder of one of these companies, not Crossover Culture, which is the shoe you see to my side over here. I had a founder of one of those companies tell me, we are cash rich. We got deep, deep pockets. And I was like, oh my gosh, this person has no clue of what they're doing. Money has very little to do with basketball. Specifically when you're a new brand, it has everything to do with Adidas, Nike, and Under Armour, the bigger brands. And I'm going to get into that. And this section I'm going to call the others and overlooking the marketplace. All right. So when you see this shoe next to me, Crossover Culture, the Sniper, it's a beautiful shoe. I love the design of that shoe. Crossover Culture got into Hibbett Sports, and I went to visit a Hibbett Sports, and I found the shoes on the shelf for $19.99, $29.99, marked down, extremely marked down. Now, if I say that and somebody's like, well, prove it. I didn't take pictures when I was in the store. I should have, but what I did do was turn this into a Target where you can open it up and you can see clearly $125 marked down to $56.98. I would try those shoes at that price at $56.98. The shoes look good. $51.98, $130 to $56.98. And that's not putting Crossover Culture on blast. I actually hope you go out and try it if you're a hooper. I think the shoes look fantastic. Picture right there, right? Now, what I did do was research on all of these new sneaker brands. And they're not new. A lot of them are years old, but they're still startups in the scheme of sneakers. Let me put this shoe down. So I did all of this research, and I did it according to third-party data. Now, remember, when I use third-party data, what I'm trying to explain is that there's a cycle in footwear where a shoe is new. It stays in the store for a while, and then it gets marked down. Now, typically when it gets marked down, if the shoe is done well at retail, you'll have people come in who are arbitrage buyers. They'll buy something that's marked down, and they'll try to turn it for a profit on eBay or Amazon, and you'll get third-party sales data that you can pull up and see how those shoes are doing in third-party. That's important because it's a way I measure the brand quality. One of these brands, and I'm going through these pictures real quick just to show you, in particular the brand Hollow, which is very new. And when I see that, I'm like, that's problematic because that looks like an Iverson logo. But that brand right now is new in basketball. There's no third-party data that I can pull. As a matter of fact, that brand hasn't even updated its own website to capture visitors information for their new basketball shoes. And they've signed Isaac Okoro, who plays for the Indiana Pacers, the rookie. Now, The fact that they haven't even updated their own website for their new basketball shoe, it shows you a problem that having funding from investors can create. A company that's struggling, that doesn't have a bunch of cash on hand, will do everything to make their brand successful. Now, I'm not saying that all of these brands are doing that. I'm saying that brand in particular did not even update their website, but there's information flying around about signing an NBA player. And I think that's important to know in this discussion. Let's keep going. New brands with these investors haven't had to struggle and learn how to sell. Once again, this is an observation from me. You have Moolah, Kicks, Crossover Culture, and even Hollow. And the crazy thing about Hollow, once again, it started as an outdoor brand. And those brands were able to gain distribution with retail outlets almost right out of the gate. That means they didn't have to do what I did with Arch, which is to find somewhere to sell and reach a broader audience. They almost immediately got placed into distribution outlets. Dick's Sporting Goods, Hibbett's, REI. They got into these doors. That's something, consider this, that a $1 billion brand like Allbirds, which was once valued at $1 billion, Allbirds didn't even get into distribution outlets. They created their own doors and they went DTC. They are now just expanding distribution because they are struggling and the stock is sitting around $1. It's a different story. Allbirds was a Kickstarter brand initially. Let's keep going. Social media, venture capitalists. It's emboldened these new brands, particularly these basketball companies. And I don't think they're doing half of the work that performance running startups are doing. You get what I'm saying? Think about what I just said there. Performance running startups are doing considerable work in capturing new fans, building new fans. They're doing great work. Now, you see next to me, this is the Q4 LG9, right? And that's the Langston Galloway Player Edition from Q4. All of these brands, right? These new brands are working in reverse in an attempt to ensure that they have the most positive outcome. So Ethics, and that's this shoe here, you see this one, Ethics. Ethics is owned by a former NBA player, Langston Galloway. Here's the irony. This sneaker, like I said, the LG9, is the Langston Galloway player exclusive. He left Q4, a startup, to start up his own sneaker brand. And that's cannibalization of the worst kind. Why not approach Q4 for a percentage of the company? Now, the smart thing that Hollow did is Hollow gave Isaac Okoro a percentage of the company. Will it work? I don't know, probably not. But Q4, at one point, Q4, like I said, when I go back over here, they had Darren Collison, Etwine Moore, Langston Galloway. They had so many people rocking their shoes, right? You think about a company like Moolah, Kicks, and here's Moolah. Those are sneakers made for women, basketball sneakers made for women. You think about them and they signed WNBA athletes. Now, you look back at Skechers and they got Julius Randle and Terrence Mann, and you look at 361, the Chinese brands have a lot of different players. And Hollow, with their launching of a basketball sneaker with Isaac Okoro of the Pacers. You think about all of that stuff, the funding and connection to distribution and the athletes gives these brands what they see as a better chance for success. And that's bigger than any other time in the history of sneakers. The problem is every one of these brands seems to be completely unaware of the current market trends. More important, unlike Showshot, none of these brands has a grassroots foundation. Without a grassroots foundation, every one of these brands is going to find themselves in deep water, treading, trying to overcome fatigue, because simply having a professional athlete does very little for you. So I wrote a report, and I'm not going to open this report up and download it and read it to you guys. But in this report, I broke down every one of these sneakers the LeBron James for sales with sales data from 2017 to 2022. And what I found was seasonality, pricing, all of these things I discovered about sneakers by breaking down all of these shoes, the sales from every one of you're talking all Nike shoes, the best selling sneakers on the market for basketball are Nike shoes. And I did a breakdown of every one of them. And you can go and get that breakdown and read it if you want to. It's 27 pages with tons. It's a PDF. I wrote it to talk about how I thought the Ja 1 would perform. Now, I compiled all of that data from e-commerce sales since 2017. Like I said, it's super comprehensive. Now, showing the price points for Nike basketball at all levels and explaining that the seasonality that's kind of disrupted basketball sales is completely unlike performance running. It's something that every brand that's starting should understand what they're getting into. So unlike performance running, right, where a brand can create a community like Tracksmith or Newton Running, and you think about Tracksmith, they ended up having people compete in the world championships and win, like Cravant Charleston, but they have these huge running communities that they're fostering throughout the country. It's much easier to do that than it is to support or do things in basketball. Basketball is rooted in youth culture. Basketball is a young person's sport. It's also a specialized sport. And all of those things severely limits the market. The sneakers tend to be stiff. They're made to withstand these explosive movements. They're not super comfortable. You lug them around. I made this shoe because it's so light, it's not even funny, and that's my arch casual shoe. Now, I can talk about this in detail, but I'm saying that it's easier to make a casual shoe than it is to make a performance basketball shoe. Hoop shoes don't feel as good as casual shoes or even running sneakers. They simply don't. They don't feel as good. So you are trying to get people to buy a basketball shoe that's only going to be worn for basketball, that's going to be seasonal. Now, I know that basketball was once the leader in sneaker sales. I'm not crazy. I know that. But the options have grown. Retro is trendy. Terrace culture, soccer culture is up. Classic basketball looks dominate the marketplace. Air Force Ones, Dunks, even, Reebok, Club C's. These things dominate the marketplace. Everybody's looking for their perfect white shoe. Basketball sneakers are now utilized for basketball. Very rarely. Except in like hype limited release sneakers like Kobe's and Jordans. That's when you do get those shoes being worn outside of basketball. But the Jordan brand flagship isn't worn casually at all. Now, this is the most important part. When you factor in grassroots basketball, EYBL, Adidas Gauntlet, Under Armour Association, the fact that kids have to be associated with a specific program to get a college basketball scholarship, it makes basketball an even smaller segment. Think about Brand Black, right? I love Brand Black. You can go on this station and find unboxings of 4 to 5, 6 pair of Brand Blacks in my collection. Brand Black is one of my favorite startups. They make incredible sneakers. When they first started, they launched where? In basketball. They made the J Crossover signature sneaker. They even made sneakers for basketball YouTubers. Now, they had Jamal Crawford when they first started. But since then, Brand Black has rebranded into performance running and fashion. Now, if Brand Black made this transition, it would seem that other startups would do the math. Now, if they won't, once again, I'm coming back. Here's my constant measure for the potential success of a brand: third party. When a brand is healthy, There are going to be markdowns of older product. If a brand has verifiable sales in third party, this means people are willing to give them a try. So to complete this discussion, I'm posting data from each of the brands that I've mentioned in this post. And I'd like to get your thoughts and hear your position on basketball as a segment and if these brands have a fighting chance. So let's get into this data so you can see it. Third-party data. And I'm going to open each one of these. Open image in new tab. As a matter of fact, I'm going to close up these other articles and I'll put those in the description for you to check out later. But I'm going to show you crossover culture sales. I went from 7/01/2021 to 12/08/2023. We see 68 pairs sold at an average price of $39.19. And once again, this is not to bust out these brands. This is simply to show you third-party data. And if the third-party data shows up at an average price of $39.19, that's almost cost for those shoes. That means someone who bought those shoes and sold them in third-party had to have gotten them for $19.99 simply to turn a profit. There's no one just selling things to try and get $1. So more than likely they paid $19.99. So let's go to open image and new tab. Ethics. Ethics Basketball is Langston Galloway's brand. 6 pairs sold, $82.07 an average sold price. Now, one of those were an extremely limited shoe that they made, and somebody flipped it, which pushed that price up considerably to, I think it was $180. So you see $45 to $180, but only 6 pairs sold. The brand is new, so going from 2021 to 2023 is kind of pointless. But the fact that no one's taking a risk on it is not there. So let me bounce back. Ethics doesn't have distribution. It's not in stores. It's not like crossover culture, which is in stores where you can get these markdowns and flip it. Ethics is not, so you don't have that much information. $82.07 is the highest price of any of these brands in third party. Let's go back and open up image and new tab. Moolah Kicks. Moolah Kicks, average sold price $30.22, 143 pairs sold, and that's Moolah Kicks from 2021 to 2023. The brand, I think, founded right around quarantine. Once again, very limited segment because they are shoes made specifically for women. And it's a good basketball shoe because there's several WNBA players wearing it. But to see $30.22 as an average sold price on 143 means that a lot of them are selling or a lot of them are available and people are getting them cheap enough to sell them cheap. Q4 Sports, open image and new tab. Q4 Sports, $25.08 average sold price, 6 pair. That's not good at all. That's not good. So there's something that's happening within these brands where they didn't do something to make things right. All right. So here are the things that you need to note in this data. Hollow, which you didn't see in this information, is too new in basketball. They just launched a basketball strategy, but like I said, there's nothing updated on their own website. As a matter of fact, I'll see if I can find the website quickly in this search just to show you what's on the website. Load screen, hiking. And this is what's crazy about this company is they started in outdoor footwear and they've crossed over into basketball. No performance trail running shoes, nothing of that type. They crossed over into basketball and it's so confusing. Now, I've written the founder of the company and I've suggested, hey, maybe you should update this page and capture information based on this new shoe that you guys have out here. All right. And what I'm finding is they are pretty consistent in how they approach the market. I found the same problem when they did launch an outdoor wear. And this is what I think. The connections the founder has almost makes them feel overconfident because they have a lot of investors and they have believers in the brand. So when I talk about them on a LinkedIn, I get a lot of feedback back from people who believe and support them. I get inboxes from different people and everything. But this is the problem. I've seen the smartest of us have to shut down a business. Now, Jason Maiden, when he shut down Super Heroic, they had an investment from Foot Locker. It was a $2 million investment. But at the time, the quarantine created havoc on that business. Havoc. He had a lot of issues that required him to shut down that company. It has not come back since. Jason Maiden went on to be at Fear of God Athletics at the moment, and now he is leading Jordan Brand. Jason is the best of us. Extremely smart person who moved away from private label back into brands so he could reach more people and spread his message, because he's a very, very focused person, and he's really big on mental health, and he wants to reach the biggest platform that he can. But I explained that even he stopped. And that's not to scare you away from doing your own thing. That's simply to say what you're getting into is difficult when you jump into the waters of starting a sneaker company. And I know this is long. I'm glad you stayed this far. If you did stay this far, I appreciate you 1,000 times over. So let me get back to this. Q4, I have to take with a grain of salt in that 2508 and that 6. That may just be someone who bought them, used them, and they were sold used. I can go back and pull that data again and explain that to you. But they did not have big box distribution, so their shoes don't really show up that great in third party. But when you go to their website, there's no broken sizes on the brand's website. None. No broken sizes. Now, Moolah was DTC, Moolah Kicks. Remember, that's up here. They were a DTC brand originally. They're now distributed through Dick's Sporting Goods. Now, their shoes are not marked down on the Dick's Sporting Goods site. So there's just not that many out there to be purchased on discount. But you have to admit, it's extremely intriguing to see 143 pairs sold. People are interested in that shoe. They are buying it, but they're buying it at an extremely discounted price. Where are the shoes coming from that are entering that market? Crossover culture is also new to distribution. And at Hibbett Sports, which I already showed you, they're starting to trickle into third party because they've been marked down. So people are taking a risk on them. Now, like I said, I've seen those at $19 to $29, and that makes sense for crossover culture to have a $39.19 price at 68 pairs sold, because they're showing up at $29.99, and people are taking a risk on flipping them. Now, Ethics, once again, hasn't been around long enough. That 8207 is an anomaly based on the sale of one limited pair. But when you go across each one of these data sets, it does not bode well for any of the brands. It doesn't bode well. But if you asked me which one of these brands could be doing a lot better, I would say we'll go all the way back to the top. It's crossover culture. Those shoes look a lot like Li Ning's. They look incredible. They have fantastic apparel, and they feel almost like show shot based on the design and the apparel. Like I had uniforms and stuff like that, right? I really like the Crossover Culture Company. I think they have a chance. But as I stated up here at the top, they do not have a grassroots foundation. And without that grassroots foundation, these companies are going to find themselves in trouble, because performance basketball is a battleground. Basketball itself is a battleground. If you don't believe me, ask anyone who played travel or AAU basketball and who played on the EYBL circuit. There's backstabbing. There's people that'll cut you out. There's people that will cut you in. There's people that will cut you. Basketball is tough. Why are these brands diving into this marketplace? Simply based on the fact that they got a pro or they got distribution. Why are they diving in when the marketplace itself is down? Do you think these companies have an opportunity? That's it for this super long video. And you know that's what I do. If you stayed this long, I appreciate you. We're really close to getting to that 5,000 subscriber point. And I think I'll do a really cool giveaway at 5,000 subscribers. So keep on checking out the videos. I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a lot of success heading into this new year. Nothing changes. You don't change. You simply learn. And I hope you learn and do better in the coming years. See you guys on the next one. Peace.